All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is a parallelogram. What is a parallelogram? Well, a picture of one looks right here. So we have, two parallel sides here and two parallel sides here. So by definition, it's a quadrilateral whose opposite sides are parallel. The side on which the parallelogram rests, basically sits on the thing here, is called the base, and it's labeled as B. And the distance from its base to the opposite side, so here to over here, is called the height, and it's labeled as h. Now this angle from the for the height, that's a 90-degree angle, so that's a right angle. Okay, so that's a key thing. Now the area of a parallelogram is given by the equation a equals b times h. So the area is equal to the base times the height. And so as long as you know that base and you know that height, you can calculate the area. Or if you know the area and one of those two, you can calculate the missing item. Okay. What about a triangle? Well, most people know a triangle, a three-sided thing. It's a three-sided polygon formed by plotting 3 points. Well, okay, well, we can say, well, we plotted that point, we plotted that point, and we plotted that point. And then we connected them with 3 line segments. So we connected all the dots like that. And each point is a vertex, and each line segment is called a side. Now, the side on which the triangle rests is the base B, kind of like last time. So it's a B. And the distance between that base and the opposite vertex is the height or the altitude. So this is going to be our height, kind of like before with the parallelogram. But if you remember, the parallelogram was two opposite side. But look, it made a triangle, so it kind of is the same thing. And this is also a 90-degree angle here. Okay. Now the altitude is always perpendicular. So no matter how you draw it, that has to be perpendicular. Now the area of a triangle is given by the equation by area is equal to 1/2 base times height. Now how did we get that? Well, if we think about how a triangle looks, if we draw another triangle exactly like it over here, but it's going to be kind of like an inverse because this side is like here, this side has to go over here, and this side has to go up here. What does that look like? Well, that kind of looks like a parallelogram with 1, 2 triangles. And if we go ahead and we draw all the stuff in on the second triangle, we've got that's our height. Now we'll call that the base because it's sitting over here. And so we have 2 triangles, or yeah, 2 triangles. And if we add 2 triangles together, if that's area is 1/2 base times height, if we add those together, area 1 plus area 2, what do we get? Well, we're going to get base times height, which is the area of that parallelogram. Okay, and so that's how it works because parallelogram, half of it is going to be the area of a triangle, and if you have 2 halves, then that's the parallelogram. All right, so we need to remember the triangle is 1/2 base times height, and a parallelogram is base times height. So it's saying find the area of a parallelogram with the given measurements. All right, well, we remember, let's write it down before we forget. Area is equal to base times height. So we just multiply those together. Area equals 18 times 9/2. Now we could write that as 18 over 1 times 9 over 2, and that would be another way to write it. Now, what do we know about multiplying? Well, let's go ahead and, cheat a little bit and not write out all the primes. Let's say 2 goes in here once, 2 goes in here 9 times. Now we have something that can't be reduced any further. So now we have 9 times 9, which is 81, all over 1 times 1, which is 1. So this is really just 81. And we have to remember units. In this case, it's meters times meters. So it's going to be meters squared. And that would be our area of the parallelogram. Okay, what about this one? Same thing. We just have to do multiplication. And the key thing is we're just practicing putting things into a formula for, like this case, the parallelogram. And then after that, it's back to multiplying 2 fractions together. So we have 21 meters for the base, 12/7 meters for the height. And if you remember over here when we had 18, we had to convert it to 18 over 1. So let's go ahead and convert this to 21 over 1 times 12 over 7. That way it saves us a step on writing things out. Now 7 will go in here once. It'll go in here 3 times. Now the denominator is just going to be 1, so all we have to do is take 3 times 12. Well, what is that? Well, that's 36. And again, it looks like we have meters, so it's going to be meters squared is our area. All right. The next one, it looks like we're into inches. We'll have a different unit. It'll just be inches squared instead of meters squared. And we have area is equal to 45 over 1 times 32 over 9. Okay. Well, what does that equal? Well, let's go ahead and cancel some stuff. 9 goes into 9 once, goes into 45 5 times. Now we have 5 times 32. Well, that I don't know off the top of my head. So 32 times 5. That's going to be 10, carry 1, 15, 16. So that looks to be, well, let's change and do 160 inches squared. Because remember, it's inches times inches, so it's inches squared. And then 5 times 32. Okay. All right, another one. And we're still on the last one, so we're still doing parallelograms. So let's go back to purple again. And so our area is going to be, well, 16 times 9/8. So we'll have 16 over 1 times 9 over 8. Now we can change back to red so we can cancel. And 18 times 1 is that, so it goes to 1. 18 goes into 16 twice. And now we have 1 times 1 on the denominator, which is just 1. And the numerator is 2 times 9, which is 18. And now we have a new unit, centimeters. So that's going to be centimeters squared. And that will be our area. Now we're working with triangles. Now remember, triangle area is equal to 1/2 base times height. So now we have a third fraction already put in there, and then we'll take it times 2 other fractions. So we're multiplying 3 things now. And so for this one, we have area is equal to 1/2 times 21 over 1 times 24 over 7. So we have 3 things we're multiplying, but that's not anything different than if we had factored and had 6 things to multiply together times, y times, some other stuff. So this isn't any different than that. It just looks in a different format. But again, remember, that's just all going to be one fraction, and we're just multiplying all those together. So 1 times 21 times 24, and 2 times 1 times 7. So now we can cancel. Well, 7 goes into 7 once, and it goes into 21 3 times. Now 2 goes into 2 once, and it goes into 24 12 times. So now what do we have? Well, we have 1 on the denominator, and 3 times 12 are 36 in the numerator. So we have 36 inches. And again, it's just centimeters times centimeters. So centimeters, I say centimeters and I write inches. Okay. Well, let's try that again. So it's centimeters squared. Okay. And so then that would be our area of that triangle with that base and that height. Now again, practice is going to be what we need to do. So if you need to pause at any time and test it and see if you get it right or wrong, that's perfectly fine. So that's going to be 1/2 times, now we have 36 over 1 times 9 over 2. Okay, what can we do here? Well, 2 will go in here once, and 2 will go in here 18 times. Well, guess what? This 2 will go in here once, and this will go in here 9 times. So now we kind of canceled off that 1 twice, but it's still okay because now we have 9 times 9 is 81. The denominator is all 1. And now we have feet squared because we have feet times feet. All right, a couple more here. And so we're still dealing with triangles, so let's write that so we don't forget. So it's 1/2 base times height. And so what do we have? Well, we have area is equal to 1/2 times 32 over 1 times 9 over 8. Okay. Now let's reduce. Well, 8 will go into here once, and it'll go in here 4 times. And 2 will go in here once, and it'll go in here 2 times. So now all we have is 1's on the denominator and 9 times 2, which is 18 in the numerator, so we have 18 inches squared because we have inch times inch. And then our final triangle, we have area is 1/2, base, which is 63 over 1, times height, which is 32 over 9. And that's going to equal what? Well, let's start canceling. Well, 9 goes in here once. And when it goes into 63, that's going to give us a 7. And now 2 will go in here once, and that will give us 16. Now we have to take 16 times 7, so that's 42, carry 4, that's going to be 11, and so that gives us 112, and we have meters squared this time, okay? So that is how we are working with 3 fractions, multiplying them together, and taking in and doing all those multiplications of fractions. All right, so we'll stop there and we'll come back.